everybody. Welcome to our final session of Meet the Lambs 2024. And for this session, we have a real treat for you. We have the Sanderson family up in Orkney from Millburn Farm. We have Stephen and Carmen, who are going to take us to meet their sheep and their lambs. And they've got some very cute paddy lambs. Is that what you call them up in Orkney? For pet lambs. So we're delighted to have you all with us today. So my name is Fran. I work for the Royal Highland Education Trust, and we deliver food and farming and countryside education across Scotland. And you can find out more details about us on our website on the Teachers tab. So you can pop all your questions into the chat. From previous sessions, they've come flooding in, so feel free to ask anything you like for Stephen and Carmen, and we'll do our best to answer them. If we don't answer them all at the end, we'll pop them up on the website at the end of the session. Okay, so pass you over to you, Stephen. You can do a little introduction to you and the farm.
Thank you very much, Fran, and a very warm virtual welcome to everybody here at the Millburn Farm. We are very much a family farm. I'm Stephen, along with my wife Lorraine, and we're three bairns, who is Carmen, who's here with me today, and Callie and Glenn, and we all kind of play a fairly active role in the running of the farm. It's Carmen and Lorraine that actually does the most of the lambing. Both of them very kindly take their holidays to come home and lamb the sheep. So when Fran asked me about doing Meet the Lambs, I said, yeah, that would be okay. But I didn't expect where lambing has gone. It started earlier this year and it's gone faster. So the sheep shed is fairly empty, which is maybe a good thing because it's a wee bit quieter for this. So I wasn't sure where to start, but so what we're going to do for start is we do still only have 4 ewes left to lamb. So Carmen is just going to go in here. Well, I'll just turn the camera around. Hopefully you can see this okay. We just have 4 ladies here that are still left to lamb. If Carmen goes in, she's going to take the one sheep around, and it. She's rolling her eyes at me because I think so. As a wee bit of introduction, we have about 150. Well, if I say an introduction to the farm, we have about 330 acres. An acre is about the same as a football pitch, if that's something to relate to. We have 150 breeding ewes, which are our mother sheep, plus their lambs. We have 4 rams. And the main part of our business is about 100 cows. We have 98 at the moment, plus their calves and a few followers for the year before. So that's sort of a kind of basic introduction of the farm. So Carmen's going to get this 4 in-lamb sheep, the only 4 expectant mums left to come up. And I'll just, while she's doing that, I'll just give you a quick overview of our shed. So we've got here that we take the sheep in. So you'll notice this one. Can you notice the one sheep in front has an orange dot on her back? Can you see that? Can you see that, Fran, or not?
Yep, you can see that.
Yeah. So I'll just give you a profile of this one here. So the one with the orange dot, she's expecting singles. So the journey starts in late January. We get them ultrasound scanned. It's a very much the same type of technology as what pregnant ladies get scanned with in hospital. So the one with the orange dot, she was expecting singles. But if you see these 2 ewes here, they don't have a mark. But you can also see they've got their bellies are quite a bit bigger, and that's because they're expecting twins. And scanning is probably the most useful tool for any sheep farmer, because you can see there, a ewe is only about the same weight, same size as a human being, but most of them give birth to 2 lambs each year. So that takes quite a lot of nutrition. But this ewe here, along with 10 others, so when we had the scanning done, we had, I think there were 7 ewes that were non-lamb, there were 11 that were coming with singles, there were 120 something coming with pairs, and there were about 14 or 13, 13 coming with 3, and there was 1 ewe actually coming with 4, and they all came okay this year. Sometimes more isn't good, but they came okay. So as I say, they come in. So we feed them differently. Then the ewes for the singles just get really basic nutrition, to be honest. And then we feed the ones with twins, and then with triplets, they get fed for a good bit longer. And then they actually, the last couple of weeks before the lamb, they get double the feed of which even the twins are getting. So it's taken us a wee while to I would say, get that balance all right. But it's safe to say we've had a fairly successful lambing. So I will swing. Yeah, we'll just jump in, Fran, if you want. I can, if questions, just tell me if I want questions asked. But I was just going to run through what we do at lambing. So if I scan around then here, you'll see individual pens up this side. So hopefully most of the ewes do lamb themselves. Some need a wee bit of assistance, and they come in here then to smaller pens where they get a chance to bond with their lambs. So then I'll just swing around here. So we've got, and I'll get Carmen to go and get, we keep them then, so we have them in an individual pen for a day, if everything's okay, and then we would put them in what we call a nursery for a day or two, just so that they get used to other sheep, so that the mums, especially first-time mums, they get the chance to get to know their lambs among other sheep, so that when they go outside, there's a lot less chance of them getting lost. So Carmen this is one of my favourite ewes, actually. So she had two, and Carmen's going to hold up her lambs, or at least one of them.
We have a question in here, Stephen.
Leave it with others.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So primary 3 in Bowness, they're wondering,
yes.
does the sheep with 4 lambs still have enough milk?
If the feeding is adequate, then they should. But what we tend to do is because a ewe only has 2 teats, meaning that only 2 lambs can drink at one time, we tend to only leave 2 lambs with each ewe, and we tend to lift the one if it's 3, we tend to lift the one, and the same with the 4. We would just make them pet lambs. But then on the other hand, what we try and do is the ewes that are having singles, if we catch them lambing, we'll do what they call a wet adoption, which is catch her own lamb and rub the 2 lambs together, and then that means that ewe goes out with 2 when she's only actually been pregnant with 1. So Carmen's holding this lamb. If you turn the lamb round, you'll see in the distance we've put in a number on the side of the ewe, 141. That's because she's 141 first ewe to lamb. So we give her lamb then the same number. The number isn't there for the benefit of the ewe. I'm pretty sure sheep can't read. So it's a note that the reason is there in case a lamb gets lost, or if a lamb ill, we know which ewe to give it back to. Or if maybe got sore feet or something, and we treat it, we know to look out for it the next day to see that it's all right. I don't know whether I should say it or if it's a question, just to get folk thinking. Because sheep can't read, does everybody know how the ewe knows her own lambs? Because in the height of lambing, we'll have 10 ewes in here, and there'll be anything up to 20 lambs, and she knows her lambs. I'll come back and answer the question, but just to get you thinking, how does the ewe know her lambs? Because she can't read the number.
Okay, we've noted that down. We'll come back to that. Yeah. There's a question in from Mrs. Forbes, and it's actually, it's Phoebe in primary 3. Do you have any black sheep? And I think you were going to show some.
Yeah, Carmen, I'm just going to swing around now. So yeah, the majority of our flock are what we call Shetland Cheviots. So their mum were Shetland ewes, which are one of the smallest types of sheep you get, and their dad is a North Country Cheviot. And if you go and Google that later, but a Shetland and a North Country Cheviot are very different, because the North Country Cheviot are a big sheep. So you end up with a sort of a ewe that's in between. And they're both that breeds are known for being really good mums and also being really hardy, because Scotland, the majority of Scotland is made up of rough country that isn't really, well, certainly isn't suitable for growing food, for eating, whether it's fruit, vegetables, or arable farming. And a lot of the land in Scotland isn't even suitable for cattle. So but it's really well suited to sheep. But we also need tough sheep, because as you all know, in Scotland, and we have a fairly wild climate. So I'm just going to swing around here. That's the majority we'll use, but we do have a dozen of a breed called Swarbles, who they are originate from Holland, as far as I know. And I'll get Carmen. This is the last one here. This is actually my son Glenn's Gimmer, which is a first-time mum. I'll get Carmen to lift up the lambs. So the Shetland Cheviots are really wild sheep, but the Swarbles are not. They're like pets. No, they're not like pets. They are pets, to be quite honest. So that, but they're a lot bigger sheep. And they would tend to come with more lambs. As a rule, they haven't this year, which is actually a good thing. Most of them have just had 2. So hopefully you can see them there against Carmen's multicolored coat. They all come just the same as human beings. They all come different. So the one has a wide strip in its face, another one has a split in its mark. So they're actually black and white sheep. But I'll get yes. And then they've got white. Most of them have white socks as well. So their feet are quite often white, and you'll see the tip of this one's tail through there. The tips of their tail are white as well.
So Stephen, on that point, so primary 1B, Grange primary, they're wondering why some of the sheep are brown. So what's, why have you got some white and some brown?
Sorry, say that. You cut out there, Fran. Say that again.
So primary 1B, Grange primary, wondering why are some of the sheep brown?
Yeah, well, so actually, this sheep is brown, but actually, if we clipped her, if you notice her legs and her head are a good bit blacker where there's no wool, and you'll notice the newborn lambs are jet black. So when we clip that ewe, she would be completely black underneath. So the reason she's brown is basically no sunburn, but the fleece will have when she was outside, and believe it or not, there has been some sun enough to bleach her fleece a wee bit brown. That's the reason for that.
Sheep tan.
Yes, yeah. So I'll get in while the next question's coming in. So we do have a few pet lambs, thankfully not as many as last year. So we have, so if we compare, in fact, sorry, Carmen, and I'll get Carmen to lift that lamb, one of the newborn lambs up again, and then I'll show you then against. Yeah, well, I'll hold this lamb. I'll hold this one, and Carmen's going to lift one of the oldest lambs. One of the first used the lamb. She only had milk for one lamb, sadly. So if Carmen now can hold both of them, you'll see how much a lamb grows. In can you see that clear enough or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So that lets you see how much a lamb grows just in 3-4 weeks. So that lamb will be, I would guess, three times, at least 3 or 4 times the size it was when he was born.
And he's heavy.
Yeah, so Carmen can let them do.
You've got big muscles there, Carmen.
So
can I just come in with some of these? Can you hear me, Stephen?
Yes, yeah.
So just coming back in with your response about how would a yow know her lambs. So P1 at Greenrig, they think the ewe knows the scent of her lambs. And P1 to 3 at Mirthley think the yow can smell her lambs.
Yes,
and,
well done.
P1 at Kellohome think the ewe might recognise the sound of her lambs.
Yeah, I think that would be right as well. Yeah, but firstly it's smell. Yeah. So we've only got 4 pet lambs here. We call them caddies in Orkney. And you'll notice, so we've got 2 white, which are, so I forgot to say that the rams we have are Texels that we put to the Shetland Cheviot ewes. So it gives us white lambs. But then if we put a white ram on the black ewes, we get lambs that are almost completely black, like this one here. But sometimes we get a wee bit of white in the face, just like that, which she'll take for his mother. But you'll also see that one of the pet lambs here has the number 70 written on it, and that's sadly because its mum died. We came up one morning and the one ewe was died, so that lambs then have to become pets as well, which isn't as good. To take a lamb off when they're young, they take the bottle, no problem. It's no problem to get a newborn lamb to take a bottle. But if they've been with their mother a couple of days or a couple of weeks, then they aren't so keen on taking the bottle. But sadly, that's just life.
So we've got loads of questions in here. So Kaylee, Primary 2, she was wondering, do the lambs have names? So do you name any that are with their mums, or do you name any of the pet lambs?
I'll hand over to Carmen for this.
I sometimes name ones. This year, I actually haven't named many of them. We had one lamb, a big single, with a big black dot on its back, just right in the center of his shoulder. So we were going to call him Dot. And a lot of our Swartable sheep, the black sheep, they would have names. So I think we're planning to show you them as well. So I'll tell you their names when we're out there, because they're kind of imaginative.
Okay, and then from Callum in Primary 2, how often do the lambs get fed?
So the lambs, when they're with their mums, they do it all themselves. It's self-service. And to be honest, I couldn't tell you how many times a lamb drinks in the course of a day, but it's quite a lot. Quite a lot. And as the lambs get older and stronger, if you watch a field of ewes and lambs, it's the mum that decides, I've had enough of this, because they can be, as they get bigger, they get tough. So she'll let them drink for a wee while, and then she just starts walking, and they just have to stop. But little and often, I think, would be what sheep do. I think what we'll do, we'll head down to the Swarbles now, and hopefully you'll hear us. The picture won't maybe be quite so good, but you'll still hear us, so we can answer questions as we go. Is that okay?
Yep. So the question from Primary 3 and Bonus, how old are lambs when they don't need to be beside their mum?
Yeah, so we would normally, the lambing started at the end of March, and it's almost finished. So most of them are born in April, early April, and we would wean the lambs in mid-August. So that's May, June, July, August. I would say 4 to 5 months would be typical.
Okay, and then Primary 4 and Dundonald, how many lambs do you have in total?
Oh dear, this is embarrassing. Sorry, I'll ask Carmen. Carmen, do you know how many lambs we have in total? No, Lorraine was actually saying the other night. I'll have a guess and say about 270 or something like that, maybe. Something like that.
Okay, and then Primary 2 and 3 at Millburn Primary in Dumfries are wondering how many hours per day do the lambs feed? But we did talk about them. They don't. How long do they stay feeding when they're feeding?
Yeah. The real answer to that is I don't know. It would just be sometimes a few seconds at the time. But there would be lots of times per day. So I don't know. Totaled up over the whole day, would they maybe spend a half an hour feeding if it was all together? But the honest answer is I don't really know. So if Carmen's going to go and get the Swarbles now, but you can keep the questions coming while the sheep are coming.
Okay, Primary 1 in Langlands and Forfar would like to know how old the mummy and daddy sheep are.
So that varies greatly. So the ewes have their first lambs when they're 2 years old themselves. And then you would hope that most ewes, sorry, if the sheep get too noisy, let me know and I'll
No,
go
it's
back.
okay. Yeah.
So they would have, and you would hope to get 4 or 5 crops of lambs before a ewe would be starting to show signs of old age. The oldest one's here, the one that Carmen, the one that's just right there in front of you now, she's just come with her 4th crop of lambs, but it's going to be her last. Actually, Lorraine had to take the one lamb in last night because it was hungry. And then the rams we have, I think they are They were 2 or a year and a half old when we got them. We've had them for almost 3 years. And I would hope they'll be here a couple of years yet. So.
Okay, Kaylee in primary 2, Saracen wants to know, do the lambs always stay next to their mums?
Oh no, not at all. They would be with them. So obviously you're seeing that this one's new. They're playing about hands. But we've this year for the first time given the ewes a wee bit of feed just for a couple of weeks. After they've gone out, just so the diet doesn't change so much. And while the ewes are eating their feed like this, quite often the lambs will have what they call a lamb run. So they all gang together and start running around the field in bunches. But what I've noticed, what's interesting is they don't all do it at the same time. You'll maybe get, if there's 40 lambs in the field, you'll maybe get 30 of them running together, but there's always 1 or 2 stays with mums.
Great. And primary 2-3 at Port Moak Primary, we have seen lambs with plastic on them in the fields. Why is this? So maybe that's one of the plastic jackets.
Yeah, just simply because we've had one of the worst springs we've had for a lot of years. Unfortunately, we're very lucky that we have a shed to lamb them in. So we don't need, well, they're all being lambed inside, and they don't go out unless the sun's shining. And we have room to keep them in until it is a bonny day. So we've been very lucky. But the reason they've got the jackets on is if it's a day of driving wind and rain, when obviously when the lambs are born, they're wet. And then if it's cold and wet, it's really hard on them. And if it takes a really good mum to get them up and keep them warm. So the jackets is just, but they're completely biodegradable, I understand, and it just gives them, it's just like a wee, it is a coat until they dry off, and then the coats just come off.
And here's a good question here from primary 4-5 and Firth Primary School. How long are ewes pregnant before they give birth?
So about 5 months. It varies.
Sorry.
Yeah, carry on.
Primary 2 at Kennaway Primary, they're wondering how long you have been a sheep farmer.
Well, we had some sheep about 10 years ago, and to be honest, we didn't have fencing for them, and it wasn't a success. But we started again then in 2016 with some of these ewes here. Actually, it would be like their mum and granny, and that this small flock of 12 swarbles that we have here has grown. Just for 2, well, actually just one ewe. So Carmen's wanting to tell, before they all walk away, Carmen's wanting to tell you their names. So I'll So,
and we have a few suggestions of names in here, but let's hear your ones first, Carmen. I can read out some.
Yeah, so our first 2 sheep that Dad just spoke about, they had really quite funny names. So the one was called Cindy and the other one was called Barbie. So we bought them with those names. And this one here, actually, she's just come up. This is Evie. So she was a caddy, a bottle-fed lamb. So she's very friendly. And then this one here is Zoe. So she, I don't know, you probably can't see, but she actually had 3 lambs and she's got a 3 on her hip.
Yeah, and so does this one here. It's a bit clearer. Can you see the 3 written on her hip?
No.
Right.
Is it in red? Is it?
So which one? So we'll quickly go through them, Carmen.
Yeah, sorry, that's Dot.
Yeah.
And then that one, those few actually don't have names. Down the field, we've also got one called Bertha. We've got another one called Short Jaw, which is a bit of a strange name, but she was born with her bottom jaw is a bit shorter than her top one. So she's okay, but it just means she can't eat so well. So that name kind of stuck. And then we also have one called Peppa because she looks a bit like a pig. And we've got Squig as well. So Squig is one, her stripe is a bit squint instead of straight. So that's how she got her name. So a bit funny.
That's her names, yeah.
Well, we had a few suggestions of Snowdrop, Midnight, as we have Billy, Strawberry, Rosie, some of the other names that we had coming in here as well. So
hopefully there'll be lots of lambs born in years to come. So that's all names that we can bear in mind.
So Mrs. Allen Ach, what is the lamb's favourite food?
Well, grass is obviously what we can grow here in Orkney. Obviously they come up, we feed them a blended feed which has the right amount of energy, protein, calcium, whatever, and that was a wee bit of that. So that's basically like sweeties to sheep, really. So they would always, unless the grass is really, really good, they would always want to come and have some nuts, we call them, pellets, whatever, cake, some people call them, but it's basically sweeties for sheep. But grass is their main diet, and they love it. Like, but sheep also like eating weeds, and that's one of the reasons we have the sheep, is because Carmen's actually going. So that's some of the pellets there that we would give the sweeties for the sheep. So grass, but also neeps, turnips if you're posh. Yeah, neeps is sheep would like that, and yeah, but grass is by far their main diet.
Great. And primary 1 to 3 at Myrtle are wondering how long the sheep coats, so the fleece, will grow before it needs sheared, and how many different kinds of animals live on your farm.
So we only really farm cattle and sheep, obviously. We do have a pet lab, a black lab called Ola, but she certainly isn't a farm dog. She's very much a pet. As far as the fleece goes, we clip the sheep once a year, just in the hottest of the summer, in July, and that's so it grows then. The sheep are usually looking their best September, October, when they just have a nice short fleece then, and usually as they go through the year, some of them maybe lose a bit of wool. But we dipped our sheep this year for the first time, and it's been really good for lice and things that make them scratch. And the sheep have never looked better, to be quite honest.
And dipping's like a big bath.
Yeah, they have to be completely submerged in the dip, basically a bath, and it's far more effective for killing lice and things that make you scratch.
So Mrs. Swanley, do lambs have teeth when they are born?
Yes, they do have teeth, but sheep, interestingly enough, only have, if I really wanted to set Carmen a challenge now, I would tell her to go and catch Evie. In fact, try it, Carmen. So see what Carmen's just told you, that Evie's tame. We'll see how tame she is. She'll show you. So sheep only have teeth on the bottom. They've no teeth in the top at all. So I don't think Evie's going to. No. I maybe shouldn't be filming Carmen trying to catch her. That's not fair. So here we go. So if I hold it, so you'll see. Oh, no, I think you're going to have to do it, Carmen. I can't. It's going to be.
See that there?
Just come on. So there, can you see her teeth? Sorry, this is pretty dodgy. You're just gonna have to believe us, I think. But yeah, sheep only have teeth in the bottom.
Yep. And Noah at Kennaway Primary School, do lambs get vaccinated?
Yes, we haven't vaccinated them yet. So we vaccinate the ewes for two things. There's other things we could be, but thankfully we aren't having to do it yet. But yeah, so we are planning to vaccinate the lambs now. It'll be within the next month, because it's what's called clostridial diseases, and some of them are bugs that live in the soil, and sometimes they can cause sudden death or illness in the lambs, and the vaccine is really effective.
Very good. And Hassan at Millburn Primary is wondering if lambs have somewhere to sleep.
Yeah, it's in front of you. It's the field. We are very lucky that we have a farm that has lots of stone walls. We call them dikes in Orkney. And we also there isn't many trees in Orkney, but we're lucky that we have a couple of fields about a mile down the road that does have a few trees around about them. So we're extremely lucky to have shelter. For when they first go, but once they're a couple of weeks old, but they would tend, as a rule, they would tend to sleep alongside their mums at night, just so they're cozy and warm. But as you can see with that lambs, it's just walking away there. They've already got quite a bit of fleece on them, so it keeps them cozy.
Okay, and what age do lambs stop drinking milk and only drink water, and do they have anything else to eat?
Yeah, so well, they've got access to grass. Even you'll see that wee lamb in the distance. You'll see them nibbling at the grass already. They'll start nibbling at the grass just at a few days old, and that just gets more as they get older, and then they take less and less for their mums. We separate them then because for management, because they use we want the lambs to get good grass in the back end of the year. So in August time we wean them, which is separating them. Some of the ewes won't have any milk left on them at that time. Others maybe will have a bit, but the ewes then can live, and that's where the rough country throughout Scotland is used the most, because that ewes then they don't need a rich diet. They can live off of or rougher land for a few months then, compared with the lambs. You want to give the lambs, they're still growing, so they need the greenest grass that you have on the farm.
Here's a good question in from Karen, Primary School, Primary 3-4. We learned that dogs and foxes sometimes chase sheep. Do sheep have any way to protect or defend themselves?
Yeah, ewes will do their best to defend their lambs, but obviously if they're up against a big dog, or it doesn't even need to be a big dog, but if it's something that's determined, a ewe sometimes loses that fight. We are extremely lucky in Orkney that we don't have foxes, so that's no problem up in Orkney. Yes, dogs, the vast majority of dogs wouldn't bother sheep. But the trick is that if you're walking in the countryside, always have them on a lead, and then they can't chase sheep.
Brilliant. And I was going to go back to, so I'm just aware of the time. So I was going to ask if you had any other animals on your farm.
Yeah. So if you want, I can go. I can go up. I can show you some of the calves if you want.
So if anyone would like to stay on and see some calves, so you can do that. If anyone needs to go off for time restrictions, then there will be a feedback form added to the chat. So please make sure that you complete that, and there'll be lots of extra resources that you can go and access after the session as well. And I'm just trying to find the name of the girl. And if you've got any other questions, you can pop them in into the chat. How long do sheep live for?
Yeah, well, it's very varied. But as I say, we would try and get. We've had ewes here this year that's having their 6th crop of lambs, but all of them don't live that long, obviously. But if they have 4 or 5, so, well, 5 it would be what you would like. So that makes them about sort of 6, 7 years old, realistically.
Yeah.
So yeah. Are you happy? So
you can show us
the main enterprise here. Sorry, keep putting my hand over this. The main enterprise here, on the farm is the cattle. So calving starts in early February. Now these calves are used. Now I'll try and no move. Obviously, I'm going to have to move to get in among them. They're well used to me coming in beside them. So they're not scared of me, but they aren't used to me coming in, probably speaking so loud and speaking to a camera, so that I can already see some of them are looking. So I thought I just want to show you the calves. They are no longer baby calves, because most of this ones would have been born in February and March. But so we've got the cows. The cows here, as I say, we have 98 exactly at the moment. The cows are kept on cubicles, which is individual stalls here, which they can come in, lie down, go away, and then they all eat at the far side. But these are the calves here, and I'll just show you about. And if you've got any questions, then fire away. I know that this is a meet the lambs session, but I thought it was a shame when the calves were just here anyway, that I thought you might find it interesting to see them. So.
We do have another question about lambs, though. Have any of your lambs refused to eat, and what do you do to help them? And that's from Primary 4 and 4 Hill.
No, thankfully never had anything. Well, I'm not sure. Sometimes if you get lambs that are just really, really, really weak when they're born, maybe, but no. Usually you'll get ones that maybe don't want to to drink maybe to begin with, or if they've been on their mum, as I say, they need to. But usually, as they get hungry, they'll it's quite natural for them to eat.
Great. Let's see. Lots of thank yous coming in. So if we don't have any more questions, then we can wrap up and say thank you very much. And thank you for also tagging on the calves at the end of it. Maybe we'll have to do a meet the calf session next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And as I said, don't forget to complete the evaluation form. And any questions that we haven't answered, then we'll write them up and pop them onto the website.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and to Carmen for all your work.
Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in.